Hey there, welcome back to another Inglese Fast American School webinar. Today we're going to talk about the 4th of July, one of the best holidays in America. It's a very beautiful holiday. If you ever have a chance, you should visit the United States during this time because people are very celebratory and very happy to celebrate the United States of America's birthday. Before we begin, a little bit about me, your teacher. My name is Lorena, and it's very nice to meet you if you don't already know me. I am from the Sunshine State. Which state would that be? If you guessed Florida, you're correct. I'm from Florida, but I now live in California. I have traveled to over 21 different countries, including Italy. I speak 4 different languages. I'm currently learning my 5th, and I trained as an opera singer in university. So I understand the challenges that you may be going through when you're learning a language, when you're learning about a new culture, new history, a new country, and a new people. I also studied international affairs and French and Italian in university, and I've been teaching languages for over 12 years, and that includes culture as well. So you are in good hands. What will you learn today? Today you're going to learn American history. Why is American history important? You're going to learn new vocabulary about American history and American culture, and the importance of Independence Day in American culture. Make sure to open your ears and your eyes because you will be able to practice your listening skills as well as your reading skills. And how can you maximize your time today? Well, if you're a beginner, you can pause the video and re-watch it as many times as you'd like. If you're advanced, you can learn as many new words as possible and correct your pronunciation. Whether you're beginner or advanced, you can take out your notebook and write down as many notes as you can. And also, if you have any questions, make sure to address those questions with your coach so you can learn a little bit more about what it means to be American. Let's begin. July 4th is an American tradition. It's a beautiful, beautiful day with a lot of wonderful ways to celebrate the birthday of our country. So what exactly is the 4th of July in America? It's Independence Day. But independence from what? If you remember your history, we'll talk about that in a second as to how America broke free from England. So first, let's talk about this history, and I promise it will be fun. Let's talk about Christopher Columbus. Do you remember this guy? Well, Christopher Columbus, he was part of a new trend during that time, which was trying to discover America, right? The fastest country who can get to America and claim it as their country. Well, when Christopher Columbus discovered America in 1492, many other countries were already trying to get there. You'll see here you have Spain and France and England, British were also there. And as the years went by, they expanded their territories, and many of the territories in between the British and the French, for example, became disputed territories. Disputed meaning that they were in conflict. They were trying really hard to get that territory from each other. So during this dispute, particularly here in the northeast of what is now the United States of America, the French wanted to build a fort. And the British didn't want the French to build a fort. And the French said, we'll build it anyway. So what happened? It was up to British Lieutenant Colonel George Washington to tell the French, hey, if you don't cooperate, we're going to take troops in and stop you from building the fort. And that's exactly what he did. He brought in British troops, the army, as well as native people. He added native people into the army as well, and he took them over there to tell the French to stop. Well, the French, they surrendered. They said, okay, you win. We don't want to have any trouble with you, so we won't build the fort. And during that surrender, something happened. What do you think happens next? if you want, you can pause the video and write down a few sentences of what you think happens next. Well, what happened next was terrible news for everybody. The French commander was killed by a native during the surrender. And this means war. That's when the 7 Years' War happened. And the British had to give the Americans, or the colonists, money so that they could win the war against the French. The British came back to the Americans. They said, "Can you please pay us back some money because we helped you win the war? So, what do you say?" And the Americans said, "No, sorry, we're not going to pay you any more money." That's when the Sugar Act happened. The British needed money because they were in huge debt. So they said to the Americans, "Fine, we're going to give you taxes. You can only buy sugar and molasses from us, and you have to pay taxes too." Well, the Americans were not very happy about that. That really didn't work. "Okay," says the British, and they try another thing. A Stamp Act. Any documentation or paper that has a stamp on it will have an extra tax, including playing cards. Remember, if you don't know any vocabulary, you can write it down and ask your coach about it. This way, you'll be able to learn what it means. When this Stamp Act was enacted, the colonists protested. There was burning, and supporters were tarred and feathered. Tarred and feathered was when someone poured tar over another person and threw feathers on them. If you know what tar is a very, very hot substance that is used to pave roads, like asphalt. More taxes happened then, and then there were more troops. And so more boycotts and rebellion happened from the colonists. There was more and more trouble going on in America, thanks to the British and their acts. So, thanks to this, or because of this, the First Continental Congress came together and they had wonderfully inspiring speeches, especially one with Patrick Henry that said, "Give me liberty or give me death." In other words, they were saying we have to do something. We don't want this to be a constant weight from the British, weighing in on our freedom. We have to pay all these taxes, and we don't even have representation in Britain. So they called it taxation without representation. They couldn't vote. They were not living in Britain. So why should they pay taxes? So one more time, Americans said to the British, "Please stop." And the British said, "No." When that happened, "This means war," is what the Americans said. They started to prepare for war, and many of the Americans started to fight back against the Redcoats, which were the British Army. Let's continue with life, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness. Just a little quiz here. Who do you think are these three people in this painting? You can write them down and talk to your coach about it because they're very famous people that were instrumental in forming American history. So in January of 1776, a guy named Thomas Paine writes a book called Common Sense. And it was this book that talked about freedom. It talked about how America should be free from the British. And Congress was seriously starting to think about independence. Who do you think was in this Congress, by the way? Go ahead and write it down in complete sentences. Who do you think was in the first Congress? The first Congress was formed by the founding fathers of the United States. You had Thomas Jefferson, which is the man in the middle. John Adams, which is this guy right here in this picture in the middle. Then you have George Washington, which is this man here on the left, John Hancock, and Benjamin Franklin, which is this guy on the right. He's also here. This one over here is also Thomas Jefferson. These were the founding fathers, or considered to be the founding fathers of the United States. There were other very important men as well that are considered founding fathers, but these 5 in particular were very, very influential. Thomas Jefferson in particular was elected to write some very important document. Can you guess what it is? Do you know what it is? The Declaration of Independence. This document declared their independence from the British. This document was a way of saying, listen, England, the British. This document was a way of saying, listen, Britain, we are finished with your taxes. We're not going to stand for this anymore. And we want our independence now because we have different values. We don't want tyranny from the king. What did this mean? This meant that all men are created equal. This was when it started. Life, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness. It was in here, in this document, that these ideas came from. It was in this document that these ideas established the values of American citizens. The Declaration of Independence is a very important document. The original one is still in Washington, D.C. now. And what did this document say? It said that the Americans were already tired and finished with the British ruling hand. They did not want to be associated with the king. They were tired of tyranny. They were tired of paying taxes to the British when the Americans could not even vote in the elections. They could not really have a say in politics. So this piece of paper was a declaration in saying that they were free people, that they were independent, and from now on they were going to fight for that independence. What did this mean? This meant that there were differing values and ideas between the British and Americans, that all men are created equal. Now remember, this is very new at this time. It was a very unprecedented way of thinking because the British, the same as many other parts of Europe, the British relied on a king. The British relied on an authority figure. It was a very authoritative way of thinking, where the Americans thought, hey, maybe we could all be rulers of our own land. Maybe we could all be equal together. He also wrote about life, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness, where everyone is equal and they could pursue equal opportunity to success, to money, to whatever it is that you're looking for, such as happiness. So it was on July 4th of 1776 that these founding fathers and the Congress wrote their name down on the piece of paper, showing their support for a brand new country called the United States of America. This was America's birthday. Later, in 1789, for the framework for the US government, the Constitution was written, and it was written by the same people. And this was the very, very foundation of American values. It was American values that stemmed from these historic documents, namely the Declaration of Independence, as well as the Constitution. Can you name 3 American values? One of them is freedom. Individual freedom, financial freedom, and as we just saw, freedom from a tyrannical force, right? Freedom from government. Of course, the US has a government, But it's very different from the rest of the world because, in a way, our government has a sort of independence from the people, and people feel that they need this freedom to be a true American. And the government is in agreement with this. The government takes care of certain things, and the rest is the people. What is an example of freedom for an American? Write your answer down in your notebook and talk to your coach about it. Maybe you'll learn how it's very different for many people of different parts of the world. Freedom could mean family, it could mean your job, it could mean the freedom to choose your next president. What does it mean for you, and what do you think it means for an American? Write it down and practice your writing skills. Another value that we have as Americans is hard work, or the pursuit of happiness, how Thomas Jefferson wrote. This means that we value people who are goal-oriented, competitive, and we put a lot more emphasis on doing instead of being. So action is more important than just being. Can you think of someone who is American and is an example of this? Someone who's hardworking? Again, write your answer down and maybe talk to your coach about it. You never know, you may have different ideas as to what hardworking is in the United States. Another value that we have in America is progress and material comfort. We see work as very important, and we see rewards for hard work as a way to show how we have worked and to show that this is our hard work that gave us this. We deserve all of this. It is a reflection of action. It shows competition, which to Americans means a good thing. It means that it brings out the best in people. If there is a country that can compete in a very meritocracy kind of way, then it's a very good, because people will help, not only help each other, but they will bring out the best in each other to become more and more innovative in achieving their goals. What are 3 examples of material comfort to an American? I'll give you an example. Over here you see different cars, luxury cars, Lamborghinis, Ferraris. These are an example of material comfort to an American. Maybe a big house, right? Or technology, the next iPhone. These are a lot of different examples. Can you think of 3 more? Directness is another value that we have as Americans. Trust and honesty is what we see when someone is direct. We only trust people who can look you in the eye. And it's a function of reality, not of circumstance. So someone who's direct is basically just being a real person. Very authentic, honest, and a realist. It's not necessarily anything to do with the person itself. It's just how it is. So we honor truth over honor itself. So truth is the ultimate value that we have. Of course, it's dependent on the person, dependent on the people and whatnot. But in general, American values stem from directness and the ability to be truthful and to work together in that truth. Now, do you think Americans are too honest? Maybe you're thinking that they don't care about how other people think or other people's feelings. What do you think? Why or why not? Another American value is how we are future-oriented, or, as you've heard it before, the American dream. We focus a lot on the future, and we're very optimistic that no matter what, the future will be better than how we are now. The past is not as valued, and the future is more important, which signifies opportunity. If you think about it, if you want to do something and you're thinking about your future and thinking about your goals, you can do anything you want to if you really dedicate yourself to it, or how we say, if you put your mind into it. What is the American dream to you? What do you think? Let's see how Americans celebrate now in part 3. We celebrate in many different ways, and depending on the region in the United States, You're going to see completely different parades or different costumes. It actually gets quite interesting depending on where you are in the United States. How do you think Americans celebrate Independence Day? I already told you parades. How else do you think we celebrate Independence Day? Well, everyone wears red, white, and blue. Everyone waves the flag. Those little flags are very popular. It's very patriotic, and it's a beautiful thing in America to wave the flag. Happy 4th of July is what we say when we go to parades, when we dress up in the flag, when we play music, when we wave the flag. Do you think wearing all the colors is a little too much? Considering in Europe, considering other countries that have had a different history, sometimes waving the flag or having the flag nearby is a little too much. What do you think? Do you think this is too much? But wait, there's more. We have barbecues as well. It's a very traditional way of spending time with family. We make burgers, there's barbecues, picnics. We have contests too. And I want to show you here how fun these contests can get. So this one is a hot dog eating contest, and yes, it's a thing. It's a very popular contest we have every year, and there are winners of who can eat the most amount of hot dogs in one sitting. There's also mechanical bull riding contests. If you've seen these mechanical bulls that you can ride and tosses you around, whoever stays on or whoever can ride a bull the longest is the winner. And we have a watermelon eating contest as well. Many different kinds of contests for children and for adults. It gets quite competitive and quite fun, really. How do you think we end our celebrations on the 4th of July? Well, we have air shows, we have live concerts, and of course, I'm sure you know this, fireworks. Let's see a celebration of the 4th of July in Disney, a very popular place to spend 4th of July because of the fireworks. Check it out.
To honor Independence Day, we welcome you to our 4th of July celebration as we commemorate the birthday of this great nation. With joy, we celebrate the United States of America, a vast mosaic of individuality and inspiration. A vibrant palette of cultures and colors. A country whose pioneering spirit continues to live on in the hearts and minds of people who cherish freedom in this land and around the globe.
So you see, it's a beautiful way that we celebrate the 4th of July in the United States of America. Fireworks are truly my favorite part of the 4th of July, and I'm sure that you celebrate your Independence Day in a similar fashion. How do you celebrate Independence Day? This is a great exercise that you can write down and you can share with your coach, and you can start it off. I celebrate my country's Independence Day by and write down all the different activities that you and your friends do on Independence Day. Or perhaps you do not. So thank you so much for joining me today, and happy 4th of July. I hope that you found this webinar very enlightening and very fun to follow. I tried to show you a little bit of the history in a very nice way so that you can enjoy it and so you can understand fully what it means to be American and why Americans feel so proud of themselves. Well, I'll talk to you soon in our next webinar. Thanks again for joining.